Hello and welcome to this dark and not so stormy night. If you're a fan of the strange, dark, or mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place. So if that's of interest to you, please tenderly disembowel the like button. Wait, no, that sounds too familiar. We'll just go with this. I've written a story and I'm going to narrate it for you. Why? Because I feel like it. So let's get into it. I know this will make me sound crazy. I don't really know if I can handle explaining the horrible things that happened. I'll try to start with the beginning. Me and my husband, Bruce, live deep in the woods on our homestead. The sun had not yet come up that day, and me and my husband were up early to watch the world wake up around us. After breakfast, we went outside to tend to our flower beds, as we normally did. The morning was completely normal until the sun rose. While caring for the bushes on the side of our house, the birds fled and the ground shook and our eardrums were rocked by a huge explosion miles off deeper in the woods. We both looked at each other with concerned looks. Ultimately, we could do nothing about it, so we resumed our work. There were rumors in town that there was some kind of new genetic laboratory under construction, but no one had any real evidence of it existing. I asked Bruce if we should call the police, and he replied that they probably would already know. Just then, the distant sound of an engine was coming fast down our long driveway. A silver and blue SUV came blasting past the trees and into view. They were driving so fast they couldn't make the last curve toward our house and lost control, flipping over. They made several rotations, finally resting on the roof. We watched dumbfounded. We snapped out and ran over to try to help, but a black smoke started billowing out and it made us stop. Then the driver's door kicked open and a man crawled out from the wreckage. He stood to his feet quickly and nervously looked around, looking for something with urgency. Finally, he turned around and acknowledged us, and in a thick Australian accent, he shouted, "It's coming, we need to get inside." He then began running toward us. Suddenly, a red figure darted out from the woods and tackled the man with great speed. Before we could process what was happening, the thing started to tear at the man's throat. Bruce covered my mouth before I could scream. The man's cries were quickly muffled by his own blood. Then the screaming stopped and only gargled choking remained. I couldn't believe my eyes. How could this be? It looked just like a dinosaur would. But dinosaurs are extinct, yet there's one right in front of me. "We need to get inside," my husband shakingly whispered. Once the poor man stopped twitching, the dinosaur stopped thrashing at his neck and dropped his limp body to the ground with a sickening thud. The thing didn't seem to notice we were there yet. We both started slowly backing our way up towards the house. The underside of the car suddenly burst into flames. The unexpected action made me jump and stumble over. The gravel shifted noisily during my trip. The thing's head shot up toward us in our direction. I was stuck, locked in eye contact with it. The gore still dripping from its teeth, it snarled at us. Bruce grabbed my arm and pulled me up out of my trance. We ran hard back to our house. We nearly made it inside, and as soon as the front door was locked, Bruce ran around, locking every door and window. I followed close behind him, closing all of the curtains. It just stood there, scratching and clawing at the front door The whole time, the clawing randomly stopped with no clear reason why. It's just an animal. It shouldn't be able to get in. Bruce tried to reassure me. Has a dinosaur attacked the house before? I snapped back. Bruce had no reply and just shrugged. Before we could say anything else, a car horn weakly beeped from outside. Carefully, Bruce cracked the curtain to see a car stopped in the driveway. My stomach dropped when he said it was our son's car. He quickly surveyed the front yard and flung the door open. He ran out to the porch, waving and yelling, trying to warn our son. I looked around him to see James running up. He made it to the first step of the porch. Time seemed to slow when I saw, out of the corner of my eye, a red blur was running toward us. And before I could move or scream, it bit my son's ankle and pulled him back off the porch. Bruce ran down to help, but there was nothing he could do. The monster pulled my son to the ground and started tearing at the flesh on his leg. James tried to kick it with his other leg. He landed one blow to the head, but it only enraged the demon. It lunged for his head. It grabbed James's whole head in its mouth and yanked, letting out a nauseating pop. He didn't even get the chance to scream before he was dead. Bruce realized there was nothing he could do and tried to make it back inside. He was almost there, to the porch, when it jumped on his back, forcing him to fall forward. His head hit the second step on the porch and dislocated from his spine. My world collapsed in that horrid moment. My son, and now my husband, both viciously murdered in front of me. I couldn't hold my emotions anymore and fell to my knees weeping. The heartless thing began clawing at the back of Bruce's lifeless body. I let out a scream of eternal pain, hoping it would stop. The monster just looked up at me with its cold, lifeless eyes. I crawled back and slammed the door shut and ran to the kitchen. It immediately started ramming the door. I just made it into the pantry when I heard the front door cave in. I'm writing this as my last account of what happened. I can hear its footsteps searching for me. To whoever finds this, find and kill this monster. And if there are more, God help us all. So, that was it. If you enjoyed it, good for you. If you didn't, I'm sorry. That dislike is there for a reason. So I'll probably just leave it at this. This will probably be the only story I narrate, unless for some reason this becomes my thing now. But with nothing left to say, have a nice day.